Ever get those thoughts that just feel like kind of wrong?
Yeah.
Like they don't belong? Not the did I leave the oven on kind of thing, but I don't know, darker, maybe. Greedy, even.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to deep dive into something that might explain this.
Wetiko.
Interesting. Wetiko. It's a thought form described sometimes as a psychic pathogen.
Okay.
And, well, not a virus you catch, more like something that sets up shop in your mind.
So not physical at all.
No, not in the usual sense.
Yeah.
But it feeds on negativity, fear, almost like a psychic tapeworm.
Wow, okay. That's a vivid image. So we've got a bunch of sources here, right? Psychology, even mythology and physics, all looking at Wetiko from different angles. I'm curious, what's something less known about this whole thing that we could, I don't know, uncover today? Well, the idea that our minds aren't totally our own, that's not new. Wetiko just gives it a name. What's cool is some researchers link it to the shadow self idea from psychology.
Oh, right. The parts of ourselves we kind of try to hide.
Yeah, the stuff we repress, deny.
So you're saying those parts, the parts we don't want to admit, are there. They're like breeding grounds for this Wetiko thing.
Right. If Wetiko needs negativity, those shadows full of insecurities and bad impulses, well, they're the perfect buffet.
Almost like Wetiko hijacks those parts of us.
Makes them louder, makes us act in ways that are, well, against our own best interest.
That's kind of creepy, but it makes a weird kind of sense. If it's like a parasite, needs a host. In our shadow, the stuff we want to ignore, that's the perfect hiding spot. So that could lead to some messed up behavior then.
Definitely. Paul Levy, he's written tons about Wetiko, calls it this malignant egocentricity.
Malignant.
Like it convinces you you're separate from everyone else, your wants are the only ones that matter, you always need more, never enough.
I think I felt that, like that never good enough feeling. Comparing yourself, always wanting what you don't have.
Classic Wetiko. It loves comparison, competition, and the feeling of lack. The more we buy into that, the stronger it gets. Vicious cycle.
A negative feedback loop kind of thing. The more it feeds off us, the worse we feel, which feeds it more. How do you even break free from that?
First step, awareness. Wetiko loves the dark. So shining light on it, becoming conscious, that's key.
Like, recognizing the symptoms before you can treat a disease.
Right. You can't fight what you don't see. But awareness alone isn't enough. There's more active steps to take.
So what can we actually do to, like, fight this Wetiko influence?
There's this idea of shadow work. It's about diving deep into those hidden parts of ourselves.
Confronting the stuff we usually try to bury.
Exactly. Shadow work is becoming aware of our negativity, where it comes from, and then, well, integrating it into our whole selves.
So not like condoning the bad stuff.
No, but accepting it's part of us.
Yeah.
And then choosing how we react to it.
That sounds like some serious inner work. Is there research showing why this might work against Wetiko?
There is. It's really interesting. Freud, in his book, The Ego and the Mechanisms of Defense, he talked about how pushing down unwanted thoughts, it actually makes them stronger. So by bringing those shadows out, we take away their power.
So like Wetiko wants secrecy.
Yeah, it wants to keep those negative bits hidden where it can use them.
But facing them, we're, what, cutting off its food supply?
Exactly. This ties into another cool idea, the dreamlike universe.
Ooh, now this is where I get really interested. The idea that reality's not as solid as we think, that's always fascinated me.
It is a mind bender. Lynn McTaggart's book, The Field, really goes into it, like how our thoughts, our intentions, they might actually be influencing reality itself.
Hold on. You saying our thoughts can change the physical world? Sounds like sci-fi stuff.
It might sound out there, but there's more and more science to back it up. Like studies show that meditation, focused intention, they can affect physical stuff, random number generators, even plant growth.
No way. Plants responding to thoughts. That's wild. Tell me more about these plant experiments.
Okay, so there's this guy, Cleve Baxter, a pioneer in this. He hooked plants up to lie detectors.
Lie detectors?
Yeah, polygraphs. And he found they seemed to react to his thoughts, even from far away.
Wait, so plants have feelings? Or are they, like, reading minds?
It's not that simple. The research suggests there's this connection between living things we're just starting to understand. It's like our thoughts, emotions, they create ripples in this underlying energy field.
Okay, so other things can pick up on those ripples.
Exactly. And if our thoughts, Dio, shape reality, then how much are WE responsible for the negativity Wetiko feeds on? That's a big question. If Wetiko needs negativity and our thoughts, Dio, have power, then we're not just victims here, are we? We're part of creating the world we live in.
So it's a two-way street. Wetiko messes with our thoughts, but our thoughts also mess with its power.
You got it. And that realization, well, it's both scary and exciting, isn't it?
It means we got to choose our thoughts carefully. Like, if we want a better world, it starts with us.
It does. Cultivating positive emotions, acting in ways that, well, that contribute to a more harmonious world.
That's a good goal.
It is. It really is. You know, gratitude is a pretty potent Wetiko antidote.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, when we focus on what we're grateful for, it, like, shifts our energy away from all that negativity, the lack. Because Wetiko wants us fixated on what's missing, comparing ourselves, always wanting more.
Right.
But gratitude, it helps us appreciate what we do have.
So it's like Wetiko's all me, and gratitude's the opposite.
Exactly. It's not just feeling it, but expressing it, you know? Tell people you appreciate them, write thank you notes, or even just take a minute each day. Think about things you're thankful for. All that helps shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance.
And that abundance mindset, that's key against Wetiko, right? Because it thrives on that not enough feeling.
Totally. When we think there's not enough to go around, well, we hoard, we compete, we act out of fear and greed. Gratitude shows us the world's got plenty. Enough for everyone.
This is making me think back to the idea of Wetiko working on a group level, not just individual. Could our, like, collective negativity be feeding it on a huge scale?
Whoa. That's a dumb question. But if Wetiko needs negativity and our thoughts shape things, then it makes sense, doesn't it? Our collective bad vibes could be adding to the world's problems.
A collective shadow, kind of.
On
Top of our own personal ones.
Exactly. Think how negativity spreads. One grumpy person can bring down a whole room. Now imagine that, worldwide. More fear, more anger, that just makes Wetiko stronger.
Like a feedback loop on a global level. The more we're negative, the stronger it gets, and it just keeps pumping out more negativity.
Yeah.
Kind of terrifying.
It is a bit scary, but we're not helpless, you know? Just like our negativity feeds it, our positive stuff can starve it.
Okay, so how do we switch from, like, collective shadow to collective light? That sounds pretty tough.
It is a challenge, no doubt. But it starts with each of us, owning our own thoughts, our actions, and working together to build systems that support a better world, one that's more compassionate.
Speaking of systems, we came across this idea. Wetiko doesn't just mess with individuals. It can mess with whole systems, institutions even. Can you expand on that?
This is where it gets really interesting. Paul Levy, he says Wetiko loves systems based on exploitation, competition, grabbing for power. Like, think of how our economy works. It's all about endless growth, getting more and more, winners and losers.
Which are all things Wetiko loves, right?
Yeah.
Greed, wanting to be better than everyone else, all that.
Exactly. And these ideas, they're baked into so many of our institutions. Corporations, governments, even schools. It sets up a system where a few people benefit, lots of people lose out, and everyone's fighting each other.
So it's not just about, like, one greedy person. It's the way things are set up, encouraging that behavior.
You got it. That's why changing the systems is so important. It's not enough to just work on ourselves, you know? We got to build things that are fairer, kinder.
Okay, but changing a whole system, that seems even harder than changing one person. Where do you even start?
It's a huge challenge, but there are folks all over the world working on it. There's this growing movement for different ways of doing things, like cooperatives, social enterprises, community stuff.
So moving away from competition towards working together more.
Right. It's about putting people and the planet first, not just profits, building things that help everyone, not just a lucky few.
That's a big change from how things are now.
It is. It's radical. But if we want a world that can actually last and resist this Wetiko thing, it's essential.
All this talk about big systems makes me think about, well, the brain itself. Anything in neuroscience that explains how Wetiko's messing with us on that level.
This is where neuroplasticity comes in. For ages, scientists thought the brain was fixed after childhood. Turns out, that's wrong. The brain's always changing throughout our lives. Even its structure changes.
So our experiences actually shape our brains.
Yep. That includes thoughts, emotions, beliefs. The more we think or act a certain way, the stronger those pathways in the brain get, like wearing a path in the woods. The more you walk it, the easier it is.
So, if Wetiko feeds on negativity, and our thoughts can change the brain, does that mean Wetiko's literally rewiring us to be more negative?
It's a disturbing idea, but it's possible. The more we think those bad thoughts, the easier it gets to think them again.
Like, Wetiko's getting us addicted to being negative. But if it can rewire us for bad stuff, can it be rewired for good too?
That's the good news. Neuroplasticity works both ways. Just like we can strengthen the bad pathways, we can strengthen the good ones. That's where mindfulness, gratitude, compassion, all that comes in.
So by choosing to think good thoughts, we're not just like cheering ourselves up, we're actually changing our brains.
You got it. It's like building a mental muscle. The more we practice gratitude, compassion, all that, the easier it gets to be in those states of mind.
That's wild. So we're not stuck with what we were born with or what happened to us. We can change our brains and change our lives and maybe change the world too.
Absolutely. And one of the coolest, most hopeful things neuroscience has found are these things called mirror neurons.
Mirror neurons, don't those have something to do with empathy?
Exactly. They're thought to be a big part of why we can understand other people's feelings, share them even. They let us connect on a, deep brain level.
So if Wetiko is all about separation, making us see each other as different, mirror neurons are saying we're actually wired for connection.
Exactly. We gotta remember that. Even though Wetiko tries to divide us, our brains are built to connect.
That's a really powerful thought. It means Wetiko's not the only force out there. There's this whole other force of empathy, of being linked together.
And the more we use that empathy, the stronger it gets. Like a muscle, remember. Use it or lose it.
Wow. This whole conversation's been a lot. From the psych stuff about Wetiko to how it messes with society to the brain science of it all. As we wrap up this part of our dive, is there anything you really want listeners to take away from this?
Lots to think about, for sure. I guess, to sum it up, we've been looking at Wetiko, this idea of a thought form that, thrives on all the bad stuff in the world.
Right. Feeds on it.
Yeah, and it can get to us on a personal level, messing with our shadows, but it can also work on this bigger scale, like globally even.
Yeah, it's like we're all contributing to this big Wetiko monster with our fear and anger. And those thoughts, they're not just in our head. They can literally change the way our brains are wired.
Through neuroplasticity.
Right. But there's got to be a way to fight back, right? We're not just stuck with this negativity.
Definitely not. We talked about how things like gratitude, being mindful, compassion, those can actually rewire our brains for the better.
So like retraining our minds to be more positive.
Exactly. And it's not just about us as individuals. Those efforts, they spread out. They can affect the whole collective consciousness.
So to really fight Wetiko, it's not enough to just work on ourselves.
Yeah.
We got to look at the bigger picture, the systems that keep this negativity going.
You got it. Like those systems based on competition, using people, scarcity, that's all fuel for Wetiko. We got to challenge that stuff, build a world that's more fair, more caring.
It's a huge job, but it feels important. We've looked at some pretty dark things today, but I'm coming away with, a feeling of hope. Like if Wetiko is a thought form, then maybe love is a thought form too. Something powerful enough to fight back.
I like that. Love, compassion, connection, all those things, they can really shift things for the better.
And it starts with each of us making a choice. We can feed Wetiko with our negativity, or we can starve it with our love.
It's a powerful choice, and we've got more power than we think. Every little bit helps. Small acts of kindness, those moments of gratitude, really connecting with people, it all adds up.
So to everyone listening, as we wrap up this deep dive into Wetiko, we're leaving you with a question. Will you be a host for Wetiko or a warrior of love? The answer is inside each of you, and, the future kind of depends on what we all choose.